Have you ever known exactly what you needed to do, yet continue finding perfectly reasonable reasons not to do it? It may look like procrastination, but sometimes the real reason is an invisible roadblock you cannot consciously see. Welcome to Breakthrough Weekly. I'm your host, Monica Pelayo. Every week, we explore why people stay stuck, even when they genuinely want something different. Because lasting change begins when you understand what's really been holding you back. If you are new here, welcome. If you're returning, thank you for being back. Today's episode is titled The Invisible Roadblock That Was Keeping Me from Showing Up. At first, it looked like procrastination. It wasn't. At the time, I didn't realize I was running into the same invisible roadblock over and over again. The real challenge was that I couldn't see it. Maybe if you experience something similar, you know exactly what you need to do: record the video, make the call, have the difficult conversation, apply for the opportunity, or start the business. And yet, somehow you don't. Tomorrow becomes next week, and next week becomes next month. That's usually when the questions begin. Am I lazy? Am I procrastinating? Do I just lack discipline? Because of the work I do, I knew those were only labels. They describe behavior, but they don't explain it. After earning my RTT certification, I intentionally began building my personal brand. My goal was to establish credibility and grow an audience before transitioning out of my career in the CEO office at Intel. I started recording videos, teaching, and sharing the work I was so passionate about. Then my dad got sick, and within 3 months, he passed away. Not long after that, I was part of a layoff at Intel, the company where I spent 21 years of my life. I moved back to Oregon, gave myself a short break, and fully committed to building thriving pathways. By that point, I was already carrying the weight of grief and chronic stress. I remember looking in the mirror and thinking, stress has aged me. People have always told me I look younger than my age, so this wasn't about what anyone else saw. It was about how I experienced myself every time I caught my reflection or watched myself back on camera. I could do my hair, put on makeup, and look completely put together. I still knew my worth and I still believed deeply in the work I was doing, yet something felt different. I attributed it to stress, grief, and getting older. I remember thinking, maybe this is just what your mid 40s feels like. Given everything had happened, that explanation made perfect sense. I lost my dad, my job, and a significant part of the identity I had built over 21 years. Naturally, creating videos took a back seat. Then, just as I was beginning to build momentum in my business, a lawsuit landed on top of everything else. As someone building a business centered on trust and credibility, I wonder how an active lawsuit might affect the business I was working so hard to build. Pulling back felt like the responsible decision at the time. So I focused my energy on serving my clients while navigating everything happening behind the scenes. When the lawsuit was finally resolved, I expected that chapter to be behind me. And in many ways it was. I felt lighter, my mood improved, I became more social again. Friends and family noticed the difference, but one thing hadn't fully returned. There were afternoons when the house was finally quiet, my camera was ready, and I had every opportunity to press record. Instead, I found myself thinking, I'm tired. I'll do it later. I'll answer emails first. I need to finish this one thing first. None of those thoughts felt like excuses. They felt completely reasonable. That's exactly why they were so convincing. Eventually, a different question began to form. Instead of asking why I'm not doing this, I found myself asking, what is really driving this? Was I actually afraid of being visible? When people can't figure out why they keep avoiding the very thing they know would help them, they usually ask themselves, how do I stop doing this? I've learned that every behavior serves a purpose, even when that purpose isn't immediately obvious. As a hypnotherapist, one of the first things I seek to understand is what the behavior is trying to accomplish. Once you understand the purpose it's serving, you know what actually needs to change. So when I started recording again, I noticed something I hadn't fully recognized before. Instead of pushing through it, I became curious about what my behavior was trying to accomplish. That's when I realized that because English is my second language, I had become more self conscious about my pronunciation whenever I recorded videos. As I worked through that, I became more confident. And for a while, I thought I found the root cause. Then I noticed myself slowing down again. I had already done deep work on my confidence during my RTT certification. The language barrier had explained part of what I was experiencing, but it clearly wasn't the whole story. At the time, every explanation I came up with made perfect sense. The grief, the lawsuit, my pronunciation. None of those explanations were wrong. They simply weren't the deepest reason my behavior kept repeating. Helping people uncover subconscious beliefs is what I do every day. And because I had already done extensive personal work using these same techniques, I knew a guided regression was the next step. During hypnosis, the analytical mind becomes quieter so the subconscious can bring forward the memories, emotions, and connections that need to be explored. In that process, my role was to follow wherever my subconscious led, not to guide the session. Because those were two different roles, I couldn't do both at the same time. And that's why I chose to work with another trained RTT hypnotherapist who could guide the process while I remained fully focused on what my subconscious was revealing. During the regression, the memories surfaced naturally. As each one emerged, we explored what my younger self had made those experiences mean at the time, not the meaning I would assign to them today with everything I have since learned. In that moment, everything clicked. Across those memories, being seen had become linked with shame, embarrassment, criticism, and judgment. My subconscious had learned that visibility wasn't simply about being noticed, it carried the possibility of being blamed, corrected, or negatively evaluated. Without realizing it, my subconscious had quietly begun treating visibility as something to avoid. It steered me away from the camera, first through grief and later through the lawsuit, even while another part of me remained deeply committed to building my business. It also explained why working on my pronunciation had helped but hadn't completely resolved the problem. My pronunciation was never the root issue. It was simply one of the many ways my subconscious was trying to protect me from the emotional risk it had come to associate with being seen. What looked like self sabotage was my subconscious trying to protect me. One of the rules of the mind we learned in RTT is that the mind struggles to move in two conflicting directions at the same time. When conflicting beliefs or emotional associations compete, the one linked to safety and survival usually takes priority. Part of me knew I needed to grow my business, which meant being visible and putting myself out there. But another part of me had learned to associate visibility with shame, criticism, and emotional pain. My subconscious wasn't resisting growth itself, it was trying to protect me from what it believed visibility might bring. Protection overrode growth. Until I uncovered that subconscious association, it continued shaping my decisions without me realizing it. That's how these patterns often operate. They don't usually stop us from moving forward altogether. Instead, they quietly steer us away from the very actions that would create the greatest growth. Whether you're building a business, advancing your career, strengthening a relationship, or becoming more fully yourself, growth often requires visibility. It asks you to speak up, take a risk, or allow yourself to be seen. But if your subconscious has linked visibility with danger, protection will often win until that underlying pattern is addressed. You can't change a belief you don't know is running the show. For a long time, I thought I lost myself. I hadn't. I was reclaiming parts of myself that had gone quiet while I was surviving. That distinction changed everything. I had spent so much time searching for the version of me I thought I had disappeared, but she was never gone. My subconscious had simply quieted those parts while it was trying to protect me. The work wasn't about finding myself again, it was about helping my subconscious realize those parts no longer needed to stay quiet. After that session, I did exactly what I asked my own clients to do. I listened to my personalized audio recording every day for 21 days. Being the overachiever that I am, I often listened twice, one in the morning and again before bed. The purpose was to repeatedly reinforce the new beliefs, identity, and future I wanted to create until they became familiar to my subconscious. Repetition is how the subconscious learns. With each day, those new ways of thinking become more automatic, making it easier to recognize when the old protective pattern was trying to take over and giving me the opportunity to interrupt it and consciously choose a different response. I still listen to that recording whenever I need the reminder. I believe in the practicing what I teach. I've never asked a client to commit to something I wasn't willing to commit to myself. I'm getting my shine back slowly and some days more than others as the sense of threat has eased. The parts of me that had gone quiet have begun to reemerge. We don't only do this with visibility, we do it in leadership, relationships, parenting, business, and countless other areas where growth requires us to move towards something our subconscious still associates with risk. People rarely struggle because they don't know what to do. More often, they struggle because they don't understand why they aren't doing what they already know. If there's something you know you need to do but continue avoiding, pause before labeling it laziness, procrastination, or lack of discipline. Instead, ask yourself, what invisible roadblock might be standing between what I consciously want and what my subconscious still associates with risk? If that question brought something to mind, I invite you to book a complimentary 15-minute exploratory call. It's an opportunity for us to discuss what you're experiencing, what would you like to change, and whether rapid transformation therapy is the right approach to help you move forward. Because once you understand the invisible roadblock, you stop fighting yourself. You begin understanding what your mind has been trying to accomplish all along. And once you understand that, you can teach it that the old protection is no longer necessary. Ready to take the next step? If you're ready to uncover the subconscious beliefs driving your patterns and create lasting change, I love to help. Schedule your complimentary 15-minute exploratory call at www.thethrivingpathways.com/appointment. If something in today's episode felt familiar, don't ignore it. The thing you keep avoiding may not be evidence that you are lazy, undisciplined, or incapable. It may be the evidence that your subconscious is still trying to protect you from something it learned to associate with risk. Recognition is often the first step toward meaningful, lasting change. Once you understand the invisible roadblock, you can stop fighting yourself and begin changing the belief that has been quietly shaping your behavior. If someone came in mind while listening, share this episode with them. New episodes of Breakthrough Weekly are released every Monday. If you're ready to better understand what's really been holding you back, schedule your exploratory call. I'm Monica Pelayo. Until next time.